a quiet, picturesque town, a young woman full of dreams, a community where nothing like this was ever supposed to happen. But on a warm summer evening, everything changed. A disappearance that sent shockwaves through the nation, a crime so chilling that it shattered the sense of safety people once took for granted. This is the devastating story of Lisa Holm, a case that changed everything, vanishing without a trace. Lisa Holm was a 17-year-old girl living in Sweden, known for her kindness, her bright smile, and her aspirations for the future. On June 7, 2015, she finished her shift at a local cafe and was ready to head home, but she never made it. Her bike was found exactly where she left it. Her helmet was still resting on the handlebar. Her belongings untouched, but Lisa was nowhere to be found. At first, it was thought that she might have simply gone somewhere without telling anyone, but those who knew her best knew better. Lisa was responsible, punctual. She wouldn't just vanish without a word. The cafe where Lisa worked was located in Blomberg, a quiet, rural area near Kinnekulla in Sweden. The region was known for its picturesque landscapes, open fields, and scattered barns. It wasn't the kind of place where people expected crime to happen. But that Sunday evening, something sinister unfolded in the peaceful countryside. Lisa had sent a message to her parents just before leaving work, letting them know she was on her way home. But minutes later, something happened. Whether she was followed, ambushed, or tricked into stopping remained unclear at first. What was certain, however, was that she never got the chance to make it home. Her worried parents attempted to call her, but her phone rang unanswered. At first, they assumed she had gotten distracted or had run into a delay. Maybe she stopped to talk to someone. Maybe she had taken a different route. But as the minutes passed and there was still no sign of Lisa, their concern turned to alarm. When they arrived at the cafe, what they found was deeply unsettling. Lisa's bike was in the exact spot where she had left it that morning. Her helmet, carefully placed on the handlebars, suggested that she had intended to leave but had never gotten the chance. Her belongings were undisturbed, with no signs of a struggle. It was as if she had simply disappeared into thin air. The lack of any clear signs of violence made the situation even more perplexing. If she had been taken, how had it happened so quickly and so silently? If she had left on her own, why had she abandoned her bike? The eerie scene offered no immediate answers, only more questions. Then came the chilling realization. Lisa's phone was still active, but moving away from the area. Someone had taken her. Someone was on the move. The town was small, and people looked out for one another. The idea that Lisa could simply disappear without someone seeing something seemed impossible. And yet, as the hours turned into a full day, the worry turned into fear. Something terrible had happened. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the empty roads and silent barns. Somewhere in the darkness, Lisa was out there. But where and in whose hands? As the search intensified, authorities scoured the surrounding countryside, deploying drones, search dogs, and volunteers to comb through the vast rural landscape. They followed the faint signal of Lisa's phone, hoping it would lead them to her. But the signal eventually faded, plunging the case into even deeper uncertainty. Rumors began to swirl. Some whispered about a stranger lurking in the area, while others feared the involvement of someone from the community. The rural town, once a place of tranquility, became engulfed in unease. Parents kept their children closer, residents locked their doors earlier. Fear had seeped into Blomberg. Days passed with no sign of Lisa. Hope began to wane, but investigators remained relentless. They sifted through security footage, interviewed anyone who had been near the cafe that evening, and traced every possible lead. A breakthrough finally came when authorities discovered a piece of fabric near an abandoned barn, miles away from where Lisa had last been seen. It matched the clothes she had been wearing that day. The discovery spurred a more concentrated search in the area, leading investigators to a grim and horrifying truth. Lisa's body was found in a remote location, hidden from view, discarded as though her life had meant nothing to her captor. The vibrant, kind-hearted 17-year-old had been silenced in an act of unimaginable cruelty. As investigators pieced together the final moments of Lisa's life, their focus turned to those who had been near the scene. Their suspicions landed on a man who worked nearby, someone who blended in, someone who might have been watching her long before that fateful evening. Forensic evidence and testimonies built the case against him, and soon an arrest was made. Lisa Holmes' disappearance and murder shook Sweden to its core. The tragedy of her final moments, the terror she must have felt, left an indelible mark on the community. Her family, forever shattered, was left with only memories and the unanswerable question of why. Her case was a grim reminder that darkness can lurk even in the most peaceful places, that evil can walk unnoticed until it strikes. And for those who loved Lisa, the world would never feel safe again. The desperate search begins. Her parents, worried sick, reported her missing that same evening, and what followed was one of the most intense searches Sweden had ever seen. Hundreds of volunteers, search dogs, helicopters, and law enforcement officers scoured the area, hoping to find any trace of the missing teenager. Lisa's last known location was carefully examined. Her phone signal had last been detected near her workplace, but there were no clues indicating where she could have gone from there. As search teams expanded their radius, they checked every road, every alley, every hidden path that could lead to any sign of her. The Swedish police took immediate action, mobilizing specialized search units trained for missing person cases. K9 units combed through the dense forests surrounding Blomberg, sniffing for any trace of Lisa's scent. Drones were deployed to cover the vast fields and isolated structures from above, while search helicopters scoured the terrain from the skies. The Swedish Civil Contingencies Agency, MSB, and volunteer search and rescue organizations joined the massive operation, their experience crucial in coordinating large-scale efforts. People from neighboring towns joined the efforts. Flyers were printed and distributed, social media exploded with appeals for help, and the entire country began to follow the case. Lisa's face was everywhere, on street corners, store windows, and national news broadcasts. Her parents made desperate pleas to the public, begging for any information that could lead to their daughter's whereabouts. But the search turned up nothing. Every day, volunteers combed through dense forests, open fields, and abandoned buildings. Search teams trudged through marshlands, hoping to spot anything out of place. They followed footprints, tire tracks, any clue that might hint at Lisa's whereabouts. Search divers were even sent to nearby lakes and streams, fearing the worst. But as days passed, frustration and desperation grew. It was as if she had been swallowed by the earth. Authorities analyzed surveillance footage from nearby establishments. They checked vehicles that had passed through the area, questioned employees, and examined phone records. The meticulous investigation left no stone unturned, but still, there were no answers. The absence of evidence made the case all the more haunting. Then, 5 days later, the worst possible news came. Lisa's body was discovered in a remote barn, several kilometers away from her workplace. The entire nation held its breath as the grim details of her final moments came to light. The discovery was gut-wrenching. What had started as a hopeful search ended in heartbreak. Lisa had been taken, and she had suffered a terrible fate. The barn was secluded, away from main roads and hidden from casual view. Its isolated location made it the perfect place to hide a terrible crime. The person responsible had chosen this spot carefully, ensuring that Lisa wouldn't be found easily. The discovery shattered the community, Volunteers who had spent days searching were devastated, many breaking down in tears as news of Lisa's fate spread. The grief was overwhelming, but now there was one goal left: justice. Investigators worked tirelessly, determined to uncover the monster behind this heinous act. And soon, the pieces of the puzzle would begin to fall into place. As authorities pieced together Lisa's final moments, they focused on forensic evidence found at the crime scene. Footprints, fibers, and traces of DNA began to tell a story. Witnesses who had seen suspicious activity in the area were re-interviewed, and security footage was re-examined with fresh scrutiny. Lisa Holmes' case became a tragic reminder of how swiftly darkness can descend upon even the safest communities. Her family, though forever broken by their loss, found some solace in knowing that the person responsible was held accountable. But for those who had searched tirelessly, for those who had prayed for a different outcome, the pain of Lisa's fate would never fade. Her story became a call for awareness, a plea for vigilance, and a solemn vow that her memory would never be forgotten. Unraveling the truth. The investigation quickly turned its focus on one man, an immigrant worker in his mid-30s, who had been working near the cafe where Lisa was last seen. Witness testimonies placed him in suspicious locations at crucial times, but it was DNA evidence that sealed his fate. Lisa's belongings and traces of her blood were found in the workers' quarters. The barn where her body was discovered had fingerprints and fibers tying him directly to the crime. But who was this man, and why would he commit such a heinous crime? His background revealed a drifter with a history of unstable employment and a reputation for aggressive behavior. While no prior convictions existed, whispers of troubling encounters followed him. Some former colleagues described him as distant and unpredictable, while others recounted moments where his temper flared over the smallest inconveniences. What had really happened on the night Lisa vanished? Investigators believe that she was taken shortly after closing her cafe, likely lured or forcibly removed. Surveillance footage captured her locking the door and heading to her scooter, but she never made it home. Where she was taken first remains uncertain, but the evidence suggests she endured hours of captivity before being brought to the barn, a location chosen with precision to delay discovery. Interrogations were relentless. The suspect gave conflicting statements, sometimes claiming he had never seen Lisa, other times admitting to passing by her cafe. Investigators meticulously pieced together surveillance footage, phone records, and witness reports, painting a timeline that placed the man near the scene of the crime. The inconsistencies in his alibi only deepened suspicions. Every piece of evidence pulled from the crime scene painted a darker, more calculated picture of his involvement. How had he managed to evade law enforcement for so long? The answer lay in the methodical way the crime had been committed. The barn where Lisa was found had been chosen specifically for its isolation. It was a place no one would have thought to check if it hadn't been for an anonymous tip. The way Lisa's body had been hidden, the absence of immediate forensic traces at the cafe, and the suspect's ability to blend into the background all pointed to a deliberate and premeditated crime. Even more disturbing was the revelation that the suspect had a troubling past. Though he had no prior convictions, investigators uncovered reports of prior accusations, incidents involving harassment, stalking, and violent tendencies that had gone unpunished due to lack of concrete evidence. It seemed Lisa wasn't the first person to have crossed paths with this man under unsettling circumstances. As the truth unraveled, a chilling realization set in. Lisa's murder wasn't just a crime of passion or opportunity. It was something far more sinister. Further forensic analysis revealed disturbing details. The suspect had meticulously cleaned parts of the crime scene in an attempt to erase evidence. However, what he didn't know was that forensic experts could still extract minute traces of biological material. Fibers from Lisa's clothing were found in his vehicle, and further DNA analysis confirmed her presence in multiple locations tied to him. This painted a horrifying picture of her final hours and left little doubt about the perpetrator's guilt. Investigators also discovered that in the weeks leading up to Lisa's disappearance, the suspect had been seen lingering near the cafe multiple times. Security footage showed him observing from a distance, as though studying her routine. It was premeditated. He had planned it. During the trial, prosecutors presented overwhelming evidence that dismantled every attempt at his defense. The chilling realization that he had stalked Lisa beforehand only cemented the horror of the case. The jury deliberated for hours before delivering their verdict, guilty. He was sentenced to life in prison. Justice had been served, but Lisa's loss left an irreparable wound. The tragedy haunted the town, a painful reminder that evil could lurk in the most unassuming places. And for Lisa's family, nothing could ever bring back what was stolen from them that fateful night. Justice in the courtroom. During the trial, the details that surfaced were horrifying. Lisa had suffered a brutal end at the hands of someone who had no apparent motive other than sheer violence. When asked why he did it, the accused provided no coherent answer, evading responsibility at every turn. He shifted blame, made contradictory statements, and at times sat in cold silence, seemingly indifferent to the horror he had inflicted. The accused denied everything, but the overwhelming evidence left little room for doubt. The court sentenced him to life in prison, but for Lisa's family, her friends, and the entire nation, justice could never bring back what was lost. The courtroom was filled with grief. Lisa's parents sat through every session, listening to the gruesome details of what had happened to their daughter. Her mother often clutched a photo of Lisa in her hands, as if holding on to the memory of the bright, loving person she had been. Her father, usually quiet, clenched his fists in silent agony as the forensic reports were read aloud. The accused showed little remorse, maintaining his innocence despite the crushing evidence against him. His lack of emotion only deepened the public's disgust, fueling outrage across the country. The absence of an apology, the refusal to acknowledge his crime, made him a symbol of evil in the eyes of the nation. Why had Lisa been targeted? Was it purely random, or had she been watched beforehand? Investigators theorized that the suspect had been observing her for days. Whether it was an impulsive act or something he had been planning, the tragedy led to one crucial question: how could it have been prevented? Experts debated whether red flags had been ignored. The suspect's past, though never officially criminal, was littered with warning signs. Complaints of stalking, aggression, and disturbing behavior had surfaced in the past, but none had led to legal action. The case exposed gaps in the system, making many wonder if better background checks or early intervention could have saved Lisa's life. Legal professionals called for reforms in how authorities handle allegations of threatening behavior. Victim advocates pushed for stronger protections for women, arguing that Lisa's murder highlighted the dangers lurking in seemingly peaceful communities. Lisa's tragic death became a catalyst for change. Her story was shared across news outlets and social media, sparking widespread advocacy for new policies. Many pushed for stricter safety measures, increased public awareness about personal security, and stronger resources for crime victims. Petitions were signed demanding reform. Self-defense courses saw a rise in enrollment, and community-led safety initiatives began forming across Sweden. But for those who knew and loved Lisa, no amount of change could undo what had happened. Her family was left to pick up the pieces, forever carrying the weight of their loss. Their home, once filled with laughter, was now shrouded in sorrow. Birthdays, holidays, ordinary moments, each one was now a painful reminder of the life that had been stolen. And the world was left with one lingering thought: who would be next? When would another family suffer the same unimaginable loss? Schools held discussions about personal safety, and self-defense courses saw an increase in enrollments. Even politicians weighed in, calling for stricter sentencing and better protective measures. The tragedy had ignited a movement, one that aimed to ensure that no other family would have to endure such a loss. Lisa Holmes' story is not just a case, it is a tragedy, a lesson, a stark warning. And though justice was served, it will never be enough to undo the pain, the fear, the heartbreak. Her name will never be forgotten. Her story will always be told, and the chilling reality of what happened to her will serve as a reminder to never take safety for granted. This was Lisa Holmes, and this case changed everything.